Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. And today I want to talk about gratitude. And in this section of Living Sober, they talk about gratitude for several pages. So I'm going to split this into two parts because I want to read a little bit about what's said in the book. They bring up some really good points. And in my active addiction, gratitude was something that was not a regular part of my life. I like to think that I was a grateful person, but I didn't really have a lot of gratitude in my life. And when I started in serious recovery, this was introduced to me as a very important concept that was going to play a key role in my ability to continue recovery on a long-term basis. And indeed, practicing gratitude and learning how to train myself to think in terms of gratitude rather than in terms of loss or in terms of disappointment. And training myself to think about the things I have rather than the things I don't has become an important part of my recovery process. And I think that's true for many, many of us. And that's why you talk to so many recovering addicts and alcoholics who say that the practice of daily gratitude and keeping gratitude lists and constantly reminding themselves of what they have to be grateful for is such a key part of their experience. So let's read a little bit about what they say. I want to read a quote that stood out to me that's very profound, and I think this is really important, especially for anybody out there who feels like you can't change the way you are. The wonderful and one of the beautiful things about human beings is that there is a lot about ourselves that we can change. We just have to practice it and find the willingness to change it. So a lot of times when people say, well, that's just the way I am, I can't change that, that's just an expression of their unwillingness to change. If you are willing to change and willing to practice for that change, a lot of great things can happen. And what they say here, they're talking about the thoughts that we choose to allow into our lives. They say the thoughts we choose to spend time on in any given 24 hours can strongly influence the complexion of our feeling for that day, bright and healthy or murky and disheartened. So they give some great examples here. I'll read a few. When our 90-year-old grandfather, long ill and unhappy, finally dies, we have a choice. We can insist that the only thing to do is rage in grief and anger at the surprise of it, or wallow in guilt, and perhaps drink in either case. Or we can, besides being sad, remember that he did have a long, often good and happy life, that we did try to be good to him and assure him of our continuing love, and that his suffering and unhappiness are now over. It is doubtful that he would appreciate our using his passing as an excuse to get drunk and endanger our health. When we visit a place we long dreamed of visiting, we can concentrate on the inconveniences of our lodging and the weather, the passing of the good old days, and the fact that we have only a few days or weeks to spare. Or we can be grateful that we finally got there at all and keep adding to a mental list of the delights we can find if we look for them. That one in particular it hit home for me because it reminded me of all the times, and it happens to me in recovery, but less so than it did in addiction. But all the times in my addiction where I would get to something, I would have a desire to get somewhere, whether it was some kind of achievement in life, like a promotion at work, or to an actual place to go visit somewhere, go somewhere on vacation. And this thing I wanted would happen. And instead of living in gratitude of that happening and looking for the good things about it, I would find reasons to complain about it, reasons it wasn't quite what I thought it would be. And that goes back to something else that's important for us to talk about that I would imagine we'll get to at some point in this book, which is expectations and the danger of having expectations, especially if they're unreasonable. or about things we can't control. But it also hits on the idea that for those of us who don't or aren't used to practicing gratitude in our lives, we can find ourselves in situations we thought we wanted to be in with all sorts of reasons why we don't like them. And so we have to be really careful because this prevents us from experiencing a lot of joy in life. They give us an example here. We can watch out for the tendency to say yes, but in response to any optimistic, complimentary, or positive statement. A friend's good luck or his youthful appearance or a celebrity's plug for a charity may tempt us to say sourly, yes, but does this thinking habit help anyone, including ourselves? Can't we let something good simply be? Can't we just be pleased about it rather than trying to downgrade it? So when someone gives you a compliment, are you the type of person that comes up with reasons why that compliment should not mean as much as it means, or why the thing you're being complimented on isn't really all that it's cracked up to be? If you are, this paragraph is for you. You know, don't get out of that habit. Try to get out of that habit and try to get into the habit of just gratitude. Be thankful. Say thank you and mean it. And leave it at that. Don't come up with reasons why you don't deserve that compliment. Here's another one that hit hard for me. Those who try to quit smoking realize a number of possibilities are open. Complaining about how hard it is to quit, or searching out a smoking cessation program, talking to a doctor about what kind of treatment might be available, or simply enjoying a deep smoke-free breath when we think of it. Being grateful an hour has passed without a drag, and even if we do light up consciously, congratulating ourselves for putting it out without smoking it down to a stub. So cigarettes were a huge addiction for me. I was packing a half a day smoker. And and they were the first drug I quit. I quit smoking in November of 2014. And I had probably tried to quit smoking at least 30 or 40 times before then. And the difference between the last time I quit and all those other times was that I came into quitting with an attitude of gratitude. I was thankful that I was quitting. I was thankful I was quitting at the time that I did. And every day that passed without a cigarette, I was thankful for that day and for the fact that these things were out of my life for that day. And as time went on, I found more things to be grateful for. My clothes didn't smell bad. All of a sudden, I could smell people who smoked and realized that I don't smell like them anymore. I could wear cologne and actually smell like the cologne rather than cologne mixed with cigarettes, which I gotta say is not a great smell on anybody. Um, there were all these reasons that I found to be grateful for. Now, I had to use doctor's advice. I used Chantix to help quit smoking. I brought in every weapon in the armory that I could find to help me quit. But then the key to it all was not lamenting the fact that I was quitting and not being sorry for myself that I couldn't smoke anymore, but being grateful about it. And as time went on and I practiced that gratitude, I found that it grew. And as I practiced being grateful for having this thing out of my life, it got bigger and bigger to the point where I could not imagine going back to it. So that's what we want to look at, especially when we're talking about alcohol and drugs, is it's easy sometimes to lament the fact that we can't drink the way other people do, or that we can't have just a hit or two and leave it alone the way other people seem to do. But what's even better is to train ourselves and practice being grateful that we're not doing that anymore, and that we know that if we do, our lives are going to end up in shambles. And as we practice that gratitude, it grows to a point that we can't imagine life any other way, and even bigger to a point where we want to pass that on to others. And that feeds our gratitude, and it turns into this beautiful kind of cycle that really, really drives us to live a full life in recovery and a healthy life with our sobriety. So gratitude is very important, so important. They've got two more pages that I haven't read yet that I will read tomorrow. So I'll be back here tomorrow with part two about gratitude from living sober. In the meantime, hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you back here then.